Good afternoon. This is Jeff Weldon with Madison Advisors. I just want to let you know we're going to wait a couple minutes for people to log in because a bunch of people are still in the process. So we'll start in about 3 or 4 minutes. Thanks. Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started? Again, this is Jeff Weldon with Madison Advisors. Thank you for joining us today to talk about Fiserv and their best practice assessment. Again, I'm Jeff Weldon, Madison Advisors. We've also got Teresa Zwiener from Fiserv. She's the VP of Customer Communication, and Bill Larson, who's the Vice President of Output Solutions for the mail services area. And they'll be talking about their views of the different areas that we study in the best practice assessment. So what is the best practice assessment, or the BPA? It's basically a tool that we use at Madison Advisors to enable us to compare different print and mail operations. So we have a standardized set of questions that we utilize to measure one operation against another. By using the consistent set of questions, we can actually come up with a very good level, sort of a level playing field, so we can compare apples to oranges, if you will. We've got in the slides that you see, Fiserv was compared to our 50 most recent sites. We've been doing the BPA, I guess, coming up on 20 years now. So we've seen a lot of facilities, and we've watched the industry grow and change over time in terms of what customers expect as a minimum set of requirements within a company and their offerings in the print and mail space. And just a quick just go ahead and a background. Madison Advisors is we're a consulting group focused in the CCM space, customer communication management, and also as that flows into the customer experience, or CX space. And we work with vendors, software and hardware vendors. We work with print service providers such as Fiserv, and we also work with enterprise clients. So just background on Fiserv. Fiserv's print and mail operations, they're the largest first-class mailer in the US, also providing the #1 electronic documents and omni-channel delivery services. So that's a combination of archiving, PDFs, emails, etc. And they provide a single source for their customers of both printed and digital communication. So in a customer communication management environment where you've got preference management, Fiserv is set up to deliver however your clients want to receive the information in your documents. And they're full service provider, so from document composition to production to delivery, and also feedback on the exceptions and the like that happen in that process. And Fiserv comes from a banking software background. Other parts of the company produce back office services for the banking and financial services world. As a result of that, they've got very high levels of redundancy and security in their physical print operations, but also in their data collection areas. So if we start looking just on this is sort of the gross level view of Fiserv and their scores, and we're predominantly talking about the Omaha and Houston facilities, which were a part of the most recent BPA. Those two sites scored identically at roughly 82 out of the 90 points or so that we actually score for sites. And that's because the Fiserv has a mentality of making all of the sites look consistent and have the same operating procedures so that work can be shuffled from one location to another as the workload determines it. In this slide, you can see that we've included the print service provider, or PSP, average score, and also the internal enterprise site average. You can see that the average scores in both of those areas are significantly lower than the Fiserv score. We're going to talk a little bit from going forward here about why that is and the value that it brings to Fiserv's customers. So going down a little bit, we look at sort of break our questions into 5 main areas here: quality metrics, business continuity, technology, operational efficiency, and also multi-channel delivery. And as you can see on these scores, the orange line on the top there is Fiserv and how they scale in each one of these areas compared to the competition. If you look at the blue lines, you can see that generally speaking, the external print service providers are delivering a higher level of service than the internal facilities on the whole. And just in our research, the reasoning there is pretty simple. The internal operations have to justify everything they make in the way of capital investments, technology investments, and the like against their specific needs within their company. And they have to make trade-offs of quality versus operations versus expenses, and the whole idea of investing in an environment where print volumes are going down year over year. You can see why they're lagging behind the print service providers who have to provide, all the services that people expect, but they also have the ability to share that cost across multiple customers, making it easier for them to make investment opportunities. So we're going to talk a little bit here, quality processes, and in the quality drivers, there's actually the quality metrics, which is information that's being collected about the operation itself, error counts, training, both sort of a staff and equipment basis. The other things that drive into that are technology, and can you invest in the things that will make it easy to track the metrics needed to measure quality, and then also measure whether or not, if you make a change to something, if you actually see a change in the operation itself. And then this also leads to operational efficiency, because if you've got the technology and the metrics that you can measure and then make changes again, against that makes for a higher level of operational efficiency. And in Fiserv's case, they collect a lot of data, but they also use it to affect change in both the training and equipment areas, where they will make investments in personnel and equipment as is appropriate to solve a problem they might see in the production floor. And we're now bringing Bill Larson. And Bill, what I'd like, if you could give us a little bit about Fiserv's philosophy on quality as a whole, sort of the metrics and the targets that you're trying to manage your business towards.
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. Be happy to do that. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for attending today's webinar. Spend a few minutes just talking about Fiserv's approach to delivery performance. First comment I would make is we were fortunate in that we could take advantage of leveraging best practices between the original First Data and the original Fiserv post-merger of the two companies in July of 2019. Both companies had large print operations, multi-facility, and both had mature, well built out quality programs. So as part of the merger, we were able to capitalize on the best of the best between the two businesses to develop a comprehensive quality program for our operation. It starts with senior management commitment and culture. We invest in the business with state-of-the-art technology and systems and support improvement in the process, trying to eliminate diamonds wherever we can out of the process, because those are the points where you're most vulnerable to make an error. We've also invested in the people by including quality as part of performance reviews and through incentive payouts. So we set high expectations at all levels within the organization. Our performance management system, I guess, would be rooted in Six Sigma and total quality management methodology. Its foundation is in measurement and using the data to identify opportunities and drive improvements within the process. We have a quality department. That department is reports up through a separate structure than the production group. This is on purpose to prevent any kind of, call it, conflict of interest on how we measure and look at quality. We essentially consider the quality group as the customer on our production floor. We hold daily enterprise control calls where, among other key metrics, we review prior day performance, look at trends, and all supporting groups, service, technology, engineering, supply chain management, all attend this call as well. So we have all resources on that call to raise any immediate issues and talk about resolutions to potential issues. In addition to that, each of our sites hold monthly quality review meetings where they look at trends and discuss areas of focus for that specific facility. We are data driven, as Jeff said, so we collect data from multiple channels, client feedback. We have the QA staff that are on the floor doing quality checks anytime we're running operations. We do run 24/7/365, so we have quality staff there 24 hours a day doing quality checks. And then we also have forced operator quality checks. On the QA checks, we have 28 separate attributes that we look at each piece of mail. We collect all that data from all those sources, and we use that for our analysis to look at trends and try to address issues before they get out of control. If an issue does occur, we have a root cause analysis process that we follow to investigate what happened and provide the client with feedback on what happened, what the impact was, and what's the resolution. And then finally, we hold routine monthly touch point calls with clients or monthly business reviews with clients. And certainly delivery performance is front and center in those calls.
Perfect.
Questions?
I think, Bill, we're going to hold the questions till the end, just because it makes it easier for people to get in.
All
so
right, got it.
I just to quickly, I'm guessing that as a result of what you just said, the Fiserv and First Data merger, you consider to have been a success for both organizations?
Absolutely. It was what was unique and really worked to our advantage is the Fiserv client base was a little bit different than the original First Data client base. The First Data client base was primarily made up of large issuers. Fiserv's was made up primarily of smaller issuers. So the quality practices had kind of morphed over time to be a little bit different to facilitate those two dynamics. So by putting them together, it was kind of the best of the best.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You bet.
All right, and so one of the other areas we're talking about today is business continuity planning, disaster recovery, if you will. And in this area of the BPA, we've got specific things on business continuity, but here again, the technology measurements also come into play because the technology allows you to do things. For example, having a common operating model and common software between multiple locations allows you to do job sharing across the operations. Fiserv is somewhat unique in that not only the print facilities are backed up, but also pre-sort operations have continuity plans as well. And a big thing that we at Madison are proponents of is white paper factories, where you've got color inkjet devices that take in rolls of white paper and produce either black and white or full color output for clients, because again, that means that you don't have specific stocks that have to be maintained on site, but also those expire, as well as needing to be in multiple locations if you use a custom stock. And the way that Fiserv has the ability to share work amongst all of its sites means that enterprises don't need to have a separate business continuity plan. And maybe Bill, if you can touch on that and sort of how how specific customers get backed up so that they're protected and sort of go beyond the things that we measure in the business continuity test of the BPA, which is things like, do you have generators, multiple sites, backup equipment, all those kinds of things.
You bet. So we have 3 primary sites that we run our transactional mail out of. As Jeff mentioned, all 3 of the sites have common capabilities and processes and applications that support the day-to-day production. So it allows us to run most of our work out of any of the 3 sites. Each of the sites has close to the same amount of equipment capacity, and we run at similar levels of utilization at each site. Ideal being, if we truly lost a site, the other 2 sites could absorb the volume of the one site. We routinely move volume between the sites to level load. In fact, we have a fair number of clients who choose to have their work ran out of multiple sites within our group for BCP purposes. While we do a lot of custom work, we do promote and drive to a white paper factory, as Jeff said, and allow for customization on the fly. That not only provides greater flexibility for our clients, but it also makes it a little bit easier to execute on BCP if needed. Our business continuity and resiliency plans are reviewed and tested annually. However, many of our clients do their own routine testing as well throughout the year. All of the supporting functions for the MEL operations are required to do the same. So think of systems that support the business. They all are required to have redundancy and to do testing as well. Finally, realizing that some clients may have unique requirements or client-specific products that need to be supported. In those cases, we work with those clients on an individual basis to develop and set up a business continuity plan. In most cases, the issue there is just materials management and managing materials at multiple sites, or at least being able to get a hold of additional materials in short order if there were a need. So that's really done on a client-by-client basis. All of our facilities have backup generators, and systems are set up on UPS systems. So, a power outage or a routine situation like that usually does not invoke BCP. We're able to continue to run for multiple days if needed in each site.
Awesome. Thank you. And that sort of flows into our next slide, which is data security, which also, as Bill mentioned, sort of touches on the systems side of things with redundant data centers. And again, this comes back to sort of the banking roots of Fiserv and providing, continuing operating systems for banks, credit card companies, financial services, et cetera. And one of the other things that we've been, impressed by at the Fiserv facilities, in addition to sort of data security and the like, is also the physical security of the facilities, some of which have credit card production operations, and so they've got a separate set of requirements because of that. And some of that really comes back to different certifications. And I wonder, TZ, if you could do a little bit about talking about, the physical and data security that you've got in place, but also the set of certifications that you have received, but also sort of the audit environment, because data security is one of those big things that enterprises see when they give up their data to an outside provider. This and network security are sort of some of their big areas.
Yeah, you bet, Jeff. Thanks for that. So, again, just as we think about what's been going on the last year, no secret that there's been increased number of security and data breaches impacting many companies, specifically within the print and mail industry. We've seen print companies that support national and global brands that they've become targets, and the impact that that's had, right? Widespread ramifications, whether it's damaging reputation to the brand, significant downtime, SLA misses, or in some cases, right, to your point, Jeff, regulatory penalties. At Fiserv, to your point, our heritage is in servicing the financial services market. So just surrounding that alone, there's strong compliance and security performance benchmarks that need to be met. specifically from our data center perspective, we have a tier 3 data center, and they're strategically located within the U.S. To your point, Jeff, we possess deep security and compliance experience around HIPAA, NIST, CMS regulatory and certifications around that. From an audit side, again, because of the rigor around the financial sector, we do about over 150 annual audits to stay compliant with the different verticals that we support, knowing that financial services and healthcare are probably the ones that have the most stringent requirements around that. We've got intrusion detection systems that are monitored 24/7, network and application penetration testing. There's end-to-end protection around encryption, antivirus, data loss prevention, and again, just overall enterprise-grade applications that are running on a secure, redundant infrastructure.
Great, thank you.
You bet.
And a lot of this comes also back to financial strength. And one of the things that we at Madison see and have seen over the last few years is a consolidation in the print service provider marketplace. And that's because companies that were sort of in the small to mid-range of that market have found that it's very difficult for them to keep up with, if you will, table stakes that enterprise companies require when they go to outsource their print and mail operations. And so you see a consolidation so that the cost of that can be sort of spread over multiple facilities, and you see the venture capital firms sort of buying up some of these companies. And Fiserv has the financial resources because of the size of the overall organization to make the investments and sort of lead the industry in terms of services that are provided. And TZ, I wonder if you can sort of take a stab at talking about the strength that you guys bring and how you make decisions on where to invest in the operation.
Absolutely. So Jeff, to your point, we're the largest first-class mailer and #1 provider of electronic documents. So we are absolutely committed in this space. This is what we do. And to your point, we've got the financial strength of the company as a whole from an investment side. And I'll highlight a couple things, just where we've seen opportunities to invest, to your point, and where we've put our dollars. So our location in Houston, we've almost doubled that location. And to your point, we've invested in additional production floor capacity. We've enhanced our BCP capabilities, to your point of backing up our own shops, and then the added in-house zip sorting as well to back up our facility in Omaha. And we've also added dollars to our Omaha site, again, expanding production space and upgrading postal areas with new automation. So to your question around, where we see opportunities for investment, absolutely in technology as that continues to advance around printers and inserters. We've invested in dynamic printing at the envelope insert station. So those kind of things where you're increasing the value of the printed document. We absolutely look to those opportunities from an investment and leadership perspective in the market.
Excellent. I mean, that really is, to me, the biggest thing that we've seen, and even when Fiserv and First Data combined, that was sort of two titans coming together, and the way that you've sort of taken in that additional growth and facilities and merged the technologies to get the best, I think is really it's a big part of why you are the #1 print and mail provider. It's that customers trust you to provide the top end services for all of their aspects of their business. So at this point, that concludes the formal presentation, and I think we'd like to open it up. We've got a couple more minutes to open it up and take some questions if people have any.
There are a couple of questions in the chat. The first one is, will the presentation be sent to attendees? And the answer is yes, we are recording, so we will send out a copy of the recording following the presentation today. Another question was, who are we talking about when we say competition? What companies?
So, from a Fiserv perspective, since we are a PSP, right? So we would compete with the large mailers out there in our space. Broadridge, our Donnelly, those mailers, we share the market with them, and from a competitive standpoint, that's who we would view.
Thanks, TZ. That's all the questions in the chat for now. We could give it a couple minutes for others to come through.
Looks like there's no additional questions, so I'd like to thank everybody, Bill and TZ included, for helping out with this presentation. And those of you who spent the time with us today, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.